Reading fiction is an intellectual process for many. For others, it is a time pass. For me, it is a visceral process where I connect with the characters on a subconscious level and probably empathize more than I should. So it's not too hard for a well written story to bother me emotionally. Today I'm talking about a few books that shook me to the core, some throughout the books or sometimes on its last page, but definitely made me go, "What?" These are not exactly suspense thrillers. Most of them are emotional dramas with twists and turns. And I can't even categorize all these books as sad or happy, but one common factor for all these books is that they definitely drive me crazy. So today I'll start with The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This is one of those novels which give you no idea where the story is going to. It is set in 1960s England, centered around four teenage boys going through all the confusions, pangs, and excitement of adolescence. And the main characters are Tony Webster and Adrian Finn. Actually, their adolescence is revealed in flashback when Tony, who's now an older retired man, recollects his childhood. And here you see how your memory is not always true to the events that may have actually shaped your past. There is this beautiful quote: "The longer life goes on, the fewer are those around to challenge your account," to remind us that our life is not our life, merely the story we have told about our life, told to others, but mainly to ourselves. Tony admires Adrian. He is the intellectual one and he has a way with words, but their friendship is destroyed when Adrian starts dating Veronica in college, whom Tony was dating earlier. And Tony is very hurt and annoyed by this, and he writes a very angry, malicious letter to both of them. A few months after Tony sends the letter, Adrian commits suicide. And by the end of the book, literally on the last page, we find out why. And honestly, I think I was more shocked than Tony was. I think I almost screamed and I threw away the book. Next in my list is The Body Myth by Riya Mukherjee. I find everything about this novel a bit crazy, to be honest. First of all, it is set in the fictional town of Suryam, which is famous as the land of rasagura, a fictional fruit. And I don't know if I'm missing something, but I really couldn't figure out the relevance of the whole rasagura factor to the story. Because the story is centered around a 32-year-old school teacher named Meera. She has been recently widowed and she lives alone. Her story begins when she meets a young couple, Sarah and Rahil, whom she becomes close friends with. To be honest, Sarah and Rahil appeared a bit creepy to me at first. There is a love triangle, there is a mention of Munchausen syndrome, and there is a really concerning scene when a 14-year-old girl takes off her bra in the middle of a classroom, and it's not even the way you would imagine it to be. So basically there are just numerous factors in this novel that drove me crazy. I finished this book in 2-3 days actually. It is quite an interesting read, but I remember by the time I finished this novel, I needed a drink. Girl in White Cotton by Avni Doshi. I genuinely believe that this book should come with a warning that this novel is injurious to your peace of mind. This is the most complicated mother-daughter relationship you would probably ever read about. Our protagonist is Antara, and the whole story is centered around her equation with her mother Tara, who has been a rebellious, unconventional, and there is no other word for it, irresponsible mother from day one. Tara has no job, no friends, nobody she's really close to, and she doesn't really care about anyone other than herself. Tara fights with her parents, her husband, her in-laws, and even takes an 8-year-old Antara with her to beg in the streets in Pune, even though they're really very well off. At another point, Antara takes Tara with her to an ashram, and they live like yogis for a long time. And later she dumps Antara in a boarding school and seldom provides any kind of emotional security which parents are supposed to give their children. But despite all this, Antara is now grown up. The whole story is told from her perspective, flashback. And now she's a professional artist, she is married, and she even keeps in touch with her father, who was absent for most of her childhood. She gives more care and attention to Tara, who is now old and probably losing her memory. But this Tara character is not the only part of the story that drove me crazy. There are some twists, and as much as you would want to judge certain characters, you can't, because you understand that life is not black and white. You understand that life is not fair, life is not kind. Honestly, this book made me angry, scared, frustrated. But all said and done, this is an exemplary debut, and I will pre-order the author Avni Doshi's next book as soon as she announces it. The last in my list today is Eleanor Elephant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. This is the debut novel of the Scottish author who lives in Glasgow, and the story is also set in Glasgow. I can't tell you how much I loved this story. This is so beautifully written that at times you feel like you are the protagonist, Eleanor, who's also the narrator of the story. She's a little bit like Amy Farrah Fowler of The Big Bang Theory. I mean, she's academically brilliant, but she's socially anxious, socially awkward. She has no friends, no family, no boyfriend. But Eleanor is not somebody whom you can laugh at. Unlike Amy, she has a very traumatic past. A character like Eleanor Elephant comes once in a lifetime. She lives in a small apartment in Glasgow, which she rented when she started her job as an office assistant about 10 years ago. She has the same routine across her weekdays and the same across her weekends as well. The reader would accompany Eleanor on her journey so intimately that there were moments when I actually wanted to hug this character and make everything all right for her. And don't get me wrong, this is not a sad story. There are quite a few funny moments and quite a lot of thought-provoking moments. It shows the value of kindness to somebody who might be living through unimaginable loneliness. What shocked me about this novel is the revelation at the end. I think it was almost on the last page actually, and I could not have seen that coming in a million years. I would recommend, with a word of caution, that you should also pick this up. It might drive you crazy a little bit, but it's worth it. And don't forget, it is the sign of great storytelling that the reader is so visibly shaken after reading a book. So get ready for this crazy ride and go pick up these books if you haven't already. I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye-bye.